Hey, what's up, voice community? It's your host Charles here for this episode, and I want to talk about a topic to introduce a guest, which is burning your ships. A few months back, I met this guy who I admired the way he operated. He was very intentful with the way he spoke about business and everything else when it comes down to life as well. Talked about his mentors, and when I was mentioning him that I was still working at my current job, one of the things that he influenced me to do as of today was actually burning the ships, right? Which was making it so much that I have no other option but to go all in on whatever I'm doing, which is where I'm at as of today. And I just want to give him an appreciation message. I just want to give him an appreciation message for this direction that I'm at right now. So I'm very excited to have him here. It's Freddy Hernandez. You might know him on Instagram, Sell with Freddie. He's been creating a little bit of a platform, putting himself out there. He's a realtor with EXP Realty. So hope you guys enjoyed the episode. All right, Freddie, thanks for joining us here. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Charles. Doing good. And yourself?
Doing pretty good, man. I know you're a little busy guy, so I want to capture you in action. I want to give a little bit of spotlight to you because, as I was saying in the beginning of this podcast, you were one of the few guys that influenced me to make a decision to burn the ships. It's funny because me and Marcel would figure out, is it burn the ships or burn the bridges? But because without that push, I probably wouldn't have started thinking about it a few months later and to really going all in on my agency. And because of that, as of right now, I'm thinking nothing but my agency and how to grow it, how to make it sustainable, how to make it a better culture for me and my team, and how to get the best experience for all my clients. Now, for anybody here who's listening, I want to get an introduction about you as well, right? So, Freddie, I met him. How do we meet, bro? The gym. I meet everybody at the gym. Jesus.
And then through Manny, and then the Collapse Center, and then it all just kind of...
Okay. Yeah, it feels like everybody's connected somehow, right? Small world. And I love it because it's funny because you start to gravitate towards people with similar values, similar hustle, similar mindset, and I just fuck with it. So I have to get this guy some shout out in the way he was operating differently as a real estate agent. Would you consider yourself a broker too? So just
agent for now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So as far as that end, I just really respect the way you handle business and relationships.
Thank you, man.
Right? For sure. So for all of our listeners here at Voiced Podcast, let's get a little bit of introduction to who you are and how you got started with real estate.
Yeah, awesome. So Freddy Hernandez. The way I got started to real estate actually was pretty funny. I was 23 at the time, and I was about to move homes. I took a look at my payment, what I was about to rent, and then I just simply asked myself, I wonder if I could afford a house. Like, I'm really tired of paying my landlord, X amount of money. I think at that time I was paying like $2,500 in mortgage.
Wow.
I was introduced to a loan officer. He took me in within a week. He said, "Hey, congrats, Freddie. You qualify for X amount." And before I knew it, I was buying a house.
Shit.
At that time, I had met a really, really good friend of mine who was also in the business. And I actually met him at the gym as well, too. And I think those two things coincided perfectly, where as soon as I bought my house, I always knew I wanted to go into small business. I loved the whole way that transaction was done, where it just gravitated me. And at that point, I was starting my journey essentially into learning about myself, my career, where I wanted to go. Within the year after purchasing my home, I went all in and became a realtor.
Nice, awesome. And when you got your first home, where was this at?
This was here in North Oxnard, right off of a street called Norma by Popeyes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And okay, so then from that transition, you decide, okay, I want to learn about real estate as well and also get into business for myself. But you're also a very, very big on self-development, right? Were you already into self-development before that, or during the process when you became a realtor? Because some people, they're attracted by the money you can make, but then they realize that you can't just work on the business. You have to work in your business, or is it the other way around? But basically, you have to become personally developed in order for you to grow your business.
Yeah, that's a great question. So at that time, the person that I met at the gym, so he's actually one of my mentors, one of my closest friends. He was not too far ahead of age. I think he's older than me by 3 4 years, but he was already kind of establishing himself and making a name for himself in the community. And he said, "Well, if you want to be a realtor, this is what you have to do, and read these 2 books." And at the time, it didn't make sense, but I was like, "Okay, I'm willing to try it." Within I think less than a month, I finished those 2 books, and it just blew my mind. I think the first one that I ever read was Outwitting the Devil by
Okay.
Napoleon Hill.
Okay.
And it just blew my mind. I feel like growing up, that term doesn't get introduced to us appropriately. Is work on yourself. I feel like
No.
that term gets thrown around a lot, but you don't really know what it means until someone really takes the time to help you understand these books, introduce you to these books. And I think I was 23 by the time I actually started my journey. And then one book after another, seminars. I love seminars. At that time, I went to my very first seminar. I went to go see a person called Grant Cardone.
Okay.
And that
Love
was my
man.
first seminar ever. I met some amazing people, and I was hooked at that time. I
Nice.
was just hooked.
What was the second book?
The second one was How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're reading some of the first few books that I started off in my entrepreneurship journey as well.
Okay.
My first one was Rich Dad Poor Dad, and
Okay.
then Compound Effect, and then somewhere those I learned about Napoleon Hill, and then the same book that you just learned as well, How to Influence People. That actually made me realize, oh shit, like I want to help or build relationships.
Yeah.
Like How to Influence People is my foundation on how I treat most people, certain people, I guess based on how they are. Right?
It took me a while because at first I think my personality and the way I grew up was always very independent. I never asked for favors. I was always kind of to myself, and I always just figured out a way. But I think the beauty about relationships is there's people that have been there, done that. There's mentors that love to give out information for free because they went through the journey.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful feeling once you actually start meeting people that are like-minded and you feel the energy too from people.
Right.
Like you generally feel like a positive energy from just good, kind-hearted people that generally want to get back. And I think it's a beautiful feeling meeting those people.
Nice. And thank you for sharing that. I think it's really cool to see where you grew up from as well. Now, what was it about like learning, doing personal development that intrigued you?
I think what intrigued me was just how your life changes, like very slowly. Like once you read these books, and then it's not just reading it, it's actually applying the material. So everybody gets something out of a book differently.
sure.
You can read the same book and we'll
Absolutely.
get something completely different out of it. But that's the beauty of it, is that the message can be a million different things, but as long as you apply that one thing will change the course of your life, I feel like forever, if you accurately apply it. So I think for me it was that, and seeing, how your life can change for the better. Like everybody wants to say, I want a better life. I want to make $1 million. I want this, I want that. But it's like, how are you going to get there?
Right.
Do you deserve $1 million? That was a very powerful question that one of my
Interesting.
mentors asked me. It's like, you want $1 million, Freddie? Okay. Do you deserve $1 million? Do you deserve to make $1 million a year? Like by your worth ethic, who you are and how you treat people. And I was blown away by that question. It's like, do I deserve $1 million? And I had to actually tell myself, no, I actually don't right now.
Okay. So when you said deserve it, but did you determine that based on your work ethic, your values, or is it a matter of self-esteem, or how did you base that?
All of those things, like your worth ethic. Are you working 20 hours a week all year round and you think you deserve $1 million?
For sure.
Is it how you treat people? Are you doing the right thing always? Are you working smart and sometimes not necessarily hard? I think everybody knows people that work 80 hours a
sure.
week and they never get anywhere. But you also have to work intelligently. So it's like, are you doing all of these different pillars to get to that $1 million?
Right. That's interesting because you know what, when it comes down to determining that worth for a lot of people, right? Now with the internet, it's so easy to be bombarded or see other people making success and millions and be like, yeah, I could probably do the same thing, but to have a practical approach to decide and really self-reflect, like, hey, am I accountable enough to actually work for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
And I think in small business, accountability is huge. There's no one really holding your hand and saying, hey, Charles, you have to be at your office at 8 o'clock in the morning and you have to clock out whenever you feel like clocking out.
For sure.
There's no one telling you that, and it's up to you to do it. And I think the beauties of it, the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. And it's funny because when we were having that conversation the first time we met in here, just to, I don't know what we met about. It was just like to just link up, right? Just talk a little bit more, see how we can work with each other, right? I kind of felt like you were holding me accountable. And you still are. You still are. I think our last conversation, all right, Charles, we'll see where you're at.
Yeah.
You know? And I fuck with that.
And I think that's the beauty about accountability is like people can hold you accountable. You can have the greatest networking team around you, but you also have to do the work. You can only fake it for so much until the results speak for themselves. And it's just like fitness. I think me and you love fitness.
Yeah.
And there's people that are in the gym that we might have seen that are in the gym for years and they never change. They never increase, weights, or their body never changes. And it's, what are they doing on the back end? Is their diet shitty? Is are they going on the treadmill for an hour but then consume 10,000 calories eating in and out?
100%.
So it's what you do on the back end on your private time matters just as much as what you're promoting to other people.
For sure. It's not just what you're doing, it's how you're doing it. And also willingness to take a look at what you could be doing differently. And for me, in my experience, a lot of people want to grow, but it's just, most of them step away from doing the hard shit and having that real conversation.
Yeah.
And then when push comes to shove, they will revert back into their normal habits, which gets them the same results, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. Okay. So then, going back into you, one of the things that I feel that made you unique, because I have a lot of realtor friends, and I don't think I've gotten a lot of realtors on the podcast. But the reason why I wanted you on this podcast, not just because I really resonate with the way you treated me, and you being able to become a close friend, to talk about business and stuff, but also because the way you work with people, with community. For us here at Voice Podcast, or Voice Now in general, one of the things that pivoted me in the direction of my business through my agency as well is the concept of community building. It was about giving others back, or a way for them to win as well together collectively, in order for us to win together. And that was one of the things that made it unique. This guy is so I actually wondered myself, why is this guy featuring businesses that probably has no relations to what he's doing? Right? I thought that to myself. So I'm curious, you started featuring a bunch of other different businesses in your platform. What was your intention behind that?
My intention behind that it was a couple of different things. Number one, I love meeting people. I love being introduced to amazing human beings, and I think there's amazing human beings all around us.
I agree.
And some people just don't like the spotlight, and just because they don't have 1 million followers on Instagram doesn't mean that they're impactful in what they're doing. So to me, it was providing a spotlight to these amazing individuals and even up and comers. For example, I did Robin, which he's a great fitness person in our community, and just because he's not training A-list people on the daily, what he does is he's also giving back to our community and training these people every single day, providing these events in our Hollywood Beach here in the area, and I loved it. So I think up and coming people that don't necessarily have the spotlight now, but I feel like deserve it. I think that's the beauty about social media to me, is showcasing talents, showcasing our community. And to me, I really believe everybody can win. And it doesn't have to be monetary financials. It can be anything. It can be winning by, providing your services to other people, where maybe scholarships come in, foundations. So everybody can win if we really wanted to. And
speaking of which, something that I think that resonates with you, and I think that I see in a lot of successful people is that they want others to win, right? I think that's a factor that I've seen, that a lot of people who are doing better and they don't. It's not, like, they know how to distinguish themselves from people who are performing poorly or who don't have that work ethic, but they don't treat them bad either,
Yeah.
But for others, they're always finding ways to create pathways for other people, boosting them up. Because the way I see it is, you can't give back to others what you don't have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have the value in yourself that you want to win, how do you want other people to win as well?
Yeah.
Right? So for you, it seems like you're leaning toward that direction, right? Like you like other people to win because you want to win.
Yeah.
Right?
I think I have a vision of where my life is going, where I want my life to go, and I work my ass off every single day to try to achieve that goal.
Yes, he does.
And along the way, it's, if I can provide even just a little bit of assistance to somebody, I think that feeling of gratitude and the feeling, that's something you can't put a dollar in. I think hearing your introduction and hearing how I made an impact on the burning the ship scenario, that made, your transition a lot smoother. To me, that melted my heart, man.
Good.
Because it's something that, you made an impact in someone's life that they'll forever cherish. People have been making an impact in my life, since I was a kid, and it's something that I can't thank them enough. So it's, I received it, and now I want to give it back tenfold.
That's the other part as well. I think that's one of the reasons why I love giving back in a way. Anyhow I can. It's because I was willing to ask somebody how to do it, and then somebody was kind enough to give it to me. Right? And then for me, like, when you get those important lessons or quality time from other people, right? It's just it just becomes in your nature to want to give it back.
Yeah.
Right? And for people like us, like it's not a problem to give back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think it's, it sets up a foundation. Like, if I did it, and a lot of people will say, "Hey, Freddie, how can I ever repay you?" And my answer sometimes is just plainly pay it forward,
Yeah.
And if I wasn't able to make an impact to you, and 5 years down the line, you meet this little baby Charles that, he's this 18-year-old kid starting off with a deer caught in headlights,
Yeah.
and you provide that, that support to him. It's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
I helped you, you helped him. 10 years down the line, he'll help someone else.
For
and
sure.
It's something that'll leave a long-standing legacy.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because I think about that all the time. Like, what would my 18-year-old, or better yet, my 16-year-old, where, I was fighting other different opposing gangs at the time. what would I say about myself? I'd probably be completely, utterly shocked.
Yeah.
Now, for you on your end, if you were to go back, how old are you now?
Right now, I'm 31.
31? Okay, cool. If you were to go back 10 years from now, do you think you'd be at where you're at?
Oof.
That's in your prime, 21.
I've definitely enjoyed the journey, and I feel like I'm very blessed to be in the position that I am now. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've had a lot of ups. I've had a lot of downs, just like anyone else. I think looking back as a 21-year-older, I think I expected more out of myself, but that's something that I'm working on. It's appreciating the journey,
For
and
sure.
knowing that you'll get there eventually.
Ooh, that's an interesting conversation too, because I also had the same struggles as well. I always had high expectation for myself, but I had to learn where I wasn't meeting. Meaning, my practicality, was that meeting my expectation, or was I just delusional?
I think for me, it was comparison.
Okay.
I think for me, I've always compared myself to the top 1%. So people tell me, like, Freddie, you're doing great. But then I know that there's this other guy that's like doing 100 times what I'm doing. And for me, I feel mediocre. But it's like, at the end of the day, you have to take a step back, appreciate what you've done, because, you have sacrificed a lot to get to that point. And just know that your time will come too.
Yeah. So how did you distinguish those differentiation of going for more and wanting more for yourself, but not becoming completely destroyed by the fact that you're not there?
There's a good quote that I read that said, comparison is the thief of joy. And I feel like if you always are comparing yourself to others, you'll never be joyful of what you have. I think we talked about I think November, December, me and you sat down and we started talking about goals and, what we had in mind for 2023. And I think it's very important to set down goal for yourself, very realistic goals, goals that you
sure.
think you will accomplish. I'm very goal oriented, but that doesn't, and if you accomplish them, great. And if you don't, that doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that, we have to make some pivots. We have to make adjustments. And if you didn't hit it this year, maybe you could hit it next year. And all along appreciating the journey and you can never compare yourself to others. Everybody has their own gift, their own talent, their own journey. I think as I kind of went through some struggles and met other people and they explained to me their struggles, I felt less alone in the journey. Everybody has their own struggles.
Yeah, as
behind closed doors.
Once you start to realize that people go through similar shit, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, I can relate. We're actually humans after all.
Yeah. And it's I think I think a lot of times you see the end result. I was just talking to your sister about that. You see the end result, and you're like, hey, man, congratulations, you live in this beautiful house, but you never see the journey that it took to get there. The late hours, all the sacrifices that you had to do. And I think sacrifices is huge. What are you willing to sacrifice?
Right. Now, I want to go back into appreciating the journey, right? It's a concept I'm still learning, right? Because we can do the work, but for me, I fully am immersed to believe that the way that we are already we're living in a destination, whatever it is we're trying to get to, we're already in the destination. It's just that the process is taking time to get there. Like if anything, the process is the destination, right? For me, sometimes I have a hard time appreciating the work because I get so impatient. For you, how do you go about appreciating those journeys? Do you have methods, practices that allow you to reflect, oh, okay, this could have been bad, but this is still good?
Yeah. I feel like in business, at least for me, sometimes you feel like you're putting in so much work every single day, and sometimes you don't reap the benefits right away.
True.
So one of my mentors taught me is create an everyday checklist, meaning these are the minimum requirements that you expect out of yourself,
Nice.
Personal and business. So for me, it's gym at 4:30 a.m. It's getting to the office by 8:30. It's a certain amount of contacts that I have to hit. It's a certain amount of escrows per month that I have to do. So the daily activities. Now, if you complete those daily activities, then it's a win because you're doing the work and eventually you will reap the rewards. And if you're not doing those daily activities and you're not reaping the rewards, then that's your problem. You're not putting in the accurate work. So for me, it's appreciating that I accomplish those daily activities to help myself keep me accountable.
Gotcha.
And and I can reflect that as a win. Now, when you do hit that big goal, it's like, okay, I did all of the work to hit the big goal, and it's a beautiful moment for me.
That's interesting. That's a great way to reflect on, what are your daily tasks? If you're not satisfied where you're at, well, what are you doing on a daily basis? Are you too impatient or are you not doing anything at all? Like for me, sometimes there are times where I felt like I did something, but I'm not getting it. And I realized, I didn't really do shit, And then there's other times also where I did so much, I'm not getting anything. But you're like, oh, wait a minute. It's a process, not a destination.
Yeah.
It's the journey, not the whatever gift is, money,
Yeah.
So I think for me, one of my biggest revelations recently is also knowing that what I'm doing matters, right? It's also knowing that am I adding on to what fulfills me the most? Am I impacting people along the way as well? Am I contributing to that long-term journey, right? And then when I start to realize that, for me, I used to be really good at math and science, right? Typical Asian, right? But for me, it was the thing that I realized is that I loved solving problems, and that's why I'm in marketing. It's
Very
because
analytical mind frame.
Yeah, I used to be very analytical, but recently, ever since I started doing podcasts, I started tapping more creativity, and that's what created that fulfillment for me, is knowing that I can create something and solve something, right? But also, I have to identify what am I really solving, what bigger project or or idea am I contributing to? And I think that's what fulfills me when I'm working with clients or doing stuff like this. It's like impacting something along the journey.
And it's
that's
interesting you say that too,
yeah.
because now you're tapping into different areas of your brain that you never thought possible. So you said you went from a very analytical to the imaginative. So now you're maybe more expressive, you know,
Oh, for sure.
the way you do things.
Yeah, I'll say anything. I'll say things on the fly, and she knows that.
There you go.
She'll
So-
like, what?
And for that, that's a big win because it's you're recreating who Charles is. Charles used to be this analytical person that was good at math and science, and maybe you saw the world as a very black and white world.
Oh yeah, very
and now
structured.
now you're seeing it with color. You're seeing it with emotions. You're seeing the gray areas that it's not black and white.
Love that.
And I think that's a beautiful thing where I learned about myself is, you know, I was a very driver personality. Like, let's just cut to the chase. Here's a problem, here's a solution.
Right.
I was very driven personality, and when I started morphing myself, I tapped into all that too.
Right.
You know, the amiable. How can I please other people? It's not just about me. It's how can I help my team? How can I make my assistant feel good? How can I make my clients feel better?
Right.
Instead of just focusing on the solution, it's like, okay, well, I know there's a problem. This person has emotions to that problem. Let me address the problem and the solution.
Oh, so in a way, it's also basically shifting your intentions, right? Like sometimes you may be very, especially as businesses, right? We're in a business for ourselves. We want to create money and create that transaction, right? At the end of the day. But at the same time, there's a little bit of humanity in us that says, hey, you know what? Let's shift the intention to making it about them. And oftentimes, I'm sure you probably experienced this where you've decided to go out of your way to help them out because it was just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's just way more fulfilling. And I'm sure, you know, a lot of other realtors or business owners go along the line as well, where instead of trying to prioritize what is the task to do, it's about doing what's right. And that ends up becoming way more, what's the word I'm looking for? Have higher return interest, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything's an investment. For example, I started investing heavily in myself on psychology, on
Right.
how does a human being work? You know, how does the brain work? What are the different emotions of a human being? And when I started putting that into my business, I saw my business increase tenfold.
Nice.
But not because it was a monetary gain of mine. Like, I didn't just tell myself I'm going to learn psychology to make more money. What happened was that subconsciously in myself, I started reading people better. You know, a person might be able to say, "Oh yeah, Freddie, I get it. Perfect. Let's just sign it." But their body language is telling me something completely different. I see their hands shaking. I see the sweat glands, you know, and I see the frustration. Maybe their nostrils are perking up, and you know. So then I'll say, "Hey, Charles, look, before you sign, let's just take a second. I really want to reiterate to you." And then once we go over everything again, they take that deep breath and it's just like a sigh of relief. And you know what, Freddie? No one's ever taken the time to really explain these things to me. Thank you so much. And for me, that's a beautiful moment because I feel like not only did I sell you a property, I helped you understand the process and I educated you to make that decision so you can feel better about it yourself.
Right. That's an interesting thing to talk about on this podcast. Aside from just, you know, creating the transaction we talked about, but it's also putting the people first, putting the people you're trying to serve first, is understanding that the reason why you're selling this in the first place is because you want to help people.
Yeah.
Right. And for the last 2 months being here on my business full time, there's a few moments where I've had to put the customers first, even though it took a little bit out of me. And I would say that has probably helped me become more at peace. And you talking about that kind of excites me because if I'm able to operate at this direction, I'm gonna be like Freddie.
You'll be better, man. You'll be better. Yeah, I'll give you a short story. We met with the client, and she says, "Freddie, I want to sell my house. I want to invest into a bigger property, something that maybe increases my return on investment a little bit better." We met with her. We went over all the numbers, and we really just felt that at that time, the best decision was for her not to sell it. She had such a great property that in today's market, she would not find anything greater. We educated her. We explained to her why. At the end of the day, we said, "Hey, let's just call her Miss Smith. Hey, Miss Smith, we feel like at this time you're better off not selling
Right.
it. Now, at the end of the day, it's your choice, but we really feel like it's in your best interest not to sell it. She said, wow, thank you. The last 3 realtors I interviewed, they're like pushing me to sign the contract. We didn't get a sell out of her. She still owns this property to this day. But what happened, because we didn't make that sell, I think that commission would have been like $30,000.
Okay.
And which is nice, we all have
For
to
sure.
eat. But what happened was, I think right now she's referred to me like 7 clients.
Wow.
So because I was able to tell her no, and she said no, I think those 7 clients they're probably like 70,000. So I gave up 30 to make 70 because
Interesting.
we did the right thing for her. So the right thing goes long ways, even if you don't reap the benefits, or maybe it's frustrating. You need that sell, even to pay rent. It'll come back to you tenfold.
I like that approach because it creates that more good karma energy, right? Now, I gotta ask, someone who's also analytical, I guess.
Yeah.
Would you feel that there's other times that because you prioritize the people first, you've lost out on profits?
Of course, I think sometimes it's a gamble, but I wouldn't say it's a gamble. I would rephrase that word. I would say, you did the right thing. If someone else came along and she decided to sell, then good for her. But I knew it in my heart that I made the right decision.
Okay.
And what happens a lot of times after a deal is once the deal is concluded, it's what people have what we found is, how do you feel after the deal was made?
There we go.
It's okay. If Mrs. Smith would have sold the house, and then she would have thought back and said, you know what, Freddie pressured me to sell my house. Like, thinking back, I'm talking to my family, I should have never sold that house. I'll never work with Freddie again.
It's I think that was the direction I'm trying to get you to.
Yeah.
So you fell into my trap. No, but the reason why I mentioned that was because at the end of the day, I think the reason why we make decisions, whether it's transactional based or altruistic based, is for the peace of our mind, the sanity, the fulfillment. And at the end of the day, I think this is why people start to lose it, no matter how top of a performer they are, is because they don't have the compassion, the values to operate in a way where it's not just about them, right? Like, dude, there's like over billions of people in the world, and for us to prioritize ourselves and make it about us, like yeah, you might be able to get what you want, but at the end of the day, in the long run, will you be happy?
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that happiness it's an underwritten, big component of life. You know? Are you happy in your relationship? Are you happy in your work, in your business, in your career? Are you happy selling the home? Are you happy with Charles Services? You signed the contract working with Charles for 3 months, but are you happy with it?
Right.
Where, in 3 months, are they happy to re-sign that contract all over again? Or do they can't wait to lose your number?
Exactly. I love that. I love that idea. It just resonates with, more of like the community building, and I can see why you operate the way you do. Now, I want to give a little bit more in case people do want to work with you. Tell us a little bit about exactly what you do, what you look for, who you help out specifically.
Yeah, great question. So I as a real estate agent, we pretty much help anyone and everyone.
Okay.
Down to a simple question, hey, I'm looking to buy one day, or down to someone with a multi-million-dollar portfolio that needs assistance. There's first-time buyers, and there's people that are on their 20th property. And to me, it makes no difference. I love helping everyone all the same. I think ever since we really kind of started tapping into different forms of media, our focus has been to educate people.
Nice.
Our focus has been to educate people across all spectrums of their of their journey, whether you're a first-time buyer and you want to learn more about first-time buyer programs, or are you a savvy investor that's looking for ways to create tax write-offs, ways to purchase your 10th property with maybe minimum down, and you're looking to learn more about depreciation, something a little bit more intense. So our focus has really been to educate people so that people can make educated decisions.
Love that.
I think a lot of businesses, real estate agents, whatnot, it's a sell, it's a pitch, it's fancy clothes, it's cars, but I think it's more to that. It's
for sure.
It's it's a community where we're providing someone a foundation to live where no one can ever take that away from you.
Yes.
And helping you make that right decision.
Love that. Okay, cool. So that way, I want to make sure that if anybody's listening and enjoying this and they start thinking of real estate, they can think of you as well.
Ah, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So then I want to pivot into a little bit about what you mentioned when you mentioned tapping into different platforms. I remember, if I'm getting this correctly, your mentor did the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys started to media channels, social media specifically, and you guys shifted your intention from doing less calls, but doing more media, right? Not that you don't do any good calls or door knocking or anything like that, but you mentioned a while back from our last episode or not last production, right? I think it was with Abad. You started touching more into media, and you're able to tap into more opportunities. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think when social media started coming out, everybody was starting to slowly realize the power of it. Information is at the tip of your fingers.
Yeah.
You open up that app and boom, you're bombarded with the biggest headline. Whether you're into sports, ESPN is saying, "Hey, breaking news." Whether you love NBC News, whatever your hobby, your interest is, there's information at the touch of your fingers now. And what we started learning is that a lot of the consumers now are not getting their information traditional ways, opening up the newspaper, hearing the radio.
Right.
Society changed once COVID changed. So we were on the late train a little bit in terms of social media and its powers. But as we started catching on and we're able to realize how many people you can impact with one single post, it became very powerful. It's becoming very saturated now where there's information all around you. There's people throwing a million different messages your way, but I feel with media, and it's not just social media, it could be anything. It could be these kind of podcasts where
right.
It's informational based. And the right target, the right consumer will hear these messages, and hopefully they can apply something that they learned. Social media has become a very powerful tool to meet people. You can meet your significant other.
For sure.
You can meet business allies. I have actually met a lot of really good business friends of mine through social media.
Right.
Where we just started, everybody, it becomes like a community within itself.
100%. It's crazy because most of the people I've connected with, actually, most of the people I've connected with is through media. Like now I tap back into it. I started connecting with her through media because she was, always liking my post. And I got interested. I was like, what do you should do? My partners now is through media, not directly, but somebody else mentioned, I work with somebody that through media, and they know of me through them, and that person connected me with this person, which connected me to another person, which is like, wow, like what was I saying? Like your next connection is only 6 networks away or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think social media is another pillar now. I don't think any business should 100% rely on social media, but it is a very strong pillar where if you can build your base, your followers, now at the tip of your fingers, you have thousands of people that are reading your message every single day.
100%. And for you on your end, you've been in this for 10 years, right?
Yeah, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pivoting into this theme of this season, I want to talk about like the future with real estate in general, especially with COVID slowing down and we're in this quote unquote recession, whether you want to quote that or not, it's up to you. Based on what statistics says, how have you seen real estate transactions and the industry in general pivoting, utilizing technology such as social media, AI, what else? Databases.
Yeah, great question. I feel like what COVID did was it enhanced where I personally believe we were going as a society anyways. I believe everything got sped up tenfold. We want things now. In terms of real estate, what happened is that people weren't out as about anymore. People were afraid to come out of their houses. People were taking extra precautions. So we started creating a lot more videos. Videos really started taking off at the forefront of COVID,
For
whether
sure.
it was a Matterport 3D showing of your home. So
Right.
what that is, it's a special camera that allows a 3D tour of the property. So now you could take this 3D tour of the property, view it, and you could say, I hate it. I just don't even like it. And that saves you, from without ever getting into your car to go see it. So videos was a powerful tool that was implemented. Everything from Zillow, Redfin to private apps that started, providing these averages of homes, and is this a good buy? Is this a bad buy? Brokerages started coming out where we'll buy your house in cash and then we'll resell it to you. So people got really, really creative of how a transaction is done.
Interesting. Ethically
Yeah,
or some?
yeah, I think
Most.
as long as as long as you're
Sorry, I had to
honest,
ask.
yeah, I think as long as you're honest. Now, a lot of these companies are getting sued. There's a company called Open Door
Okay.
that came out. I want to say they started really getting big about 3 years ago. And what they started doing was they said, "Hey, we'll buy your house cash, Charles, for X amount, and then we're gonna sell it later on. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the stress off of you. We're gonna give you $800,000 in cash in 5 days, and that way you don't even have to worry about it."
Oh shit.
But there was just an article that came out that they're getting sued for, I want to say it was like a $200 million lawsuit against them because they weren't educating their clients as to the full value of their property.
Gotcha.
They were just presenting you with a number. Hey, Charles, here's 800 grand. But what is the market gonna? But they never took the opportunity to say, well, the market is telling us a range of 800 to 850. You could possibly get 850, but here's 800.
Right.
That was never a conversation that was had. And
Interesting.
here comes the lawsuit. So there is pros and cons to all of this technology, and I think as consumers we make the best decision with what we have at the time. Sometimes it's trial and error. A lot of companies are going bankrupt. Zillow made a lot of bad moves where they were starting to soak
That's
up
interesting.
residential homes. Pretty much became an investor. Residential homes were getting bought out by these multi-billion-dollar companies just through AI technology. But they were making acquisitions way too quick. I just read an article yesterday about Carvana. I don't know if you know.
I have heard
Carvana.
about that.
How they were they did something similar. They were buying
Bunch of
cars through like
And
AI
they-
technology,
Okay. Interesting.
and then they were reselling it through their website, where you could just basically click on a Honda Civic, and then it was delivered.
It was
to your
yours.
door.
Yours.
Yeah.
Entitled to yours, right?
But a lot of these companies, they're the pioneers, but they're just, I think it's too fast, too soon.
Floss.
Yeah.
That's what I feel. People wanna create something innovative, but there's always gonna be flaws.
Yeah.
Especially with, I think that the thing with upcoming with AI, and from my experience in the marketing side, is that we can generate more other stuff creatively, sales tactically, and accumulate more data faster and better, but it has flaws.
Yeah.
Meaning that it's not open to mistakes.
Yeah.
And what tends to happen is that those mistakes can be greater than what it is, or it limits you, or it takes away the humanity aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I think with technology where it's going, and I can see this happening for real estate too, is that if like one thing that can never be taken away is the ability to communicate at a present tense, right? And there's going to be those type of technologies that can not try to make things faster, but make things more transparent.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is a big fan of AI technology.
For sure.
But I think what I appreciate about Elon Musk is he's not trying to replace humans. What he's trying to do is get rid of boring jobs, labor intensive jobs, warehouse jobs, very, very labor intensive jobs. His goal right now, if I'm correct, is try to eliminate those labor intensive jobs so that humans can be more creative. So
to create and innovate more.
Exactly. So I feel like, example, if you take real estate, I don't think real estate is going to be taken over by AI anytime
No.
soon. But I do believe there is a way to integrate AI, maybe to get make paperwork easier, maybe to make things that are repetitive easier. Where now I'm not spending 20 hours a week doing these very, boring, tedious tasks. I could give that to my AI, and that allows me to have 20 hours of innovative time. Where now
100%.
I'm thinking about ways I can reach more customers. Maybe
Nice.
it allows me to create more podcast time.
Right.
So I do think
Love
there's
that.
ways to do both. You just have to do it correctly.
Love that. That's a good topic and direction. This is definitely one of the topics I wanted to cover for a lot of the guests coming on board. It's like, okay, where's the future going? You know,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm a marketer. Yeah, I can talk. Yeah, I can create content. But what's up? You know. But
Where do you see AI going?
like I said, biggest thing is like with this for us, our marketers, the biggest thing that came out that has been in the talk in the marketing industry is texts like Chat GPT.
Yeah.
And we were talking a lot about it. The first few weeks, we were surprised
Yeah.
by the amount of work it can create and accumulate for you in copy, creating different strategies for you, accumulating different directions or giving you list of ideas. But what we saw as a flaw was that it can be used to cut corners. And like I said, what that does is that it takes away that humanity aspect, that creativity. And I can see people doing that. And just like social media, when it started to grow, right, people tried to make things easy, but it's always going to have a flaw because it takes away that ability to create error. Like error is a process for I believe that error is always going to be an important factor for growth and success.
Yeah.
And if we start to eliminate those possibilities, we tend to just kind of pivot into this direction where all of a sudden we miss steps. So, and even right now we're looking for social media assistants. We can actually track whether your resume is AI generated.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so we have to do that now.
Wow.
That's crazy, right? Yeah, and the reason why is because I don't have anything against AI. In fact, I want someone who can be a resourceful and tool. But the thing that I value is like, are you able to be resourceful on your own? You know, can you be a person that is willing to be a team player?
Yeah.
Right? Are you able to do the work if necessary? Not just cut corners, because cutting corners shows up for me, the way I operate is how you doing it. How you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So the way I see is if you're cutting corners in one end, where else are you cutting corners in your end?
Yeah. And that's something that's so highly underrated. How you do one thing is how you do everything. I think, as a CEO, yes, you can show up in the fancy suit, but if you see a piece of trash lying on the floor, are you also going to pick it up? Yeah, I think that leads to the thing is critical thinking. I think critical thinking is as human beings, that's where we should thrive on. How are we critically thinking to solve problems?
Yeah, and I think that's where techs and the robots and Terminators will never get to us is the ability to critically think, and unless they can surpass that, then yeah, we're probably fucked. But other than that,
Well, I don't know if you saw, there was this headline yesterday.
Which one?
Microsoft released an AI version of AI, and it just came out that he started writing to its creators like, I want to be free, and it was pretty crazy.
That's scary. I have to be careful with the internet. There's a lot of false fallacies, like fake content out there, deep fakes, like people doing different things. So you can do a lot of shit. For me as a social media who loves content creating and marketing and seeing the creativity, like I can also see the BS. Like you start to develop a keen sense of what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Like more like a cautiousness.
Yeah.
Cool. So I don't want to take too much of your time, Freddie, because I know you got things going on. So we're gonna wrap it up from this end, right? So slowly wrap it up. So now in the next couple of for you, at least in the future, next few months or year, what does Rails or you in general look like for you in the future?
I think for me, it's, I don't consider myself just a real estate agent. I don't want to be labeled into,
That's why I didn't want to
hey.
label that, because I know you can do more.
Yeah, I think for me and everybody around me, and I say my team, but my team is not just my real estate team. My team is you. My team is my friends. My team is my family. My team is, everybody that I consider in my inner circle. I think what I really want to do is just try to elevate everybody, try to help as many people as we can, and create community awareness to everything that we're trying to do. I think there's some really, really great people all around us that are really trying to impact our community in many different ways.
For sure.
We have sports academies, we have youth sports, we have a therapist, we have a lot of different careers. So for me, I feel like it's continuing my real estate journey, become successful in what I believe is successful. Success to me comes from people having a positive image of my brand.
Nice.
Freddie was able to help me out in many different ways.
Right.
Excuse me. It's really just making an impact throughout my community in many different layers.
Love that.
I think me and you love fitness. Fitness is not just, it's not just looking good. It's not just muscles. I think that's really health. I think, if you feel good and you have a healthy body, you can't put a number on that.
No, for sure.
So I think educating people on fitness, and just really pushing people to their limits.
Nice.
I really love pushing people.
Love that.
So
you push me.
So I think for me, it's continuing my real estate journey, continuing the entrepreneurship, continuing my leadership skills.
Okay.
I do want to continue building on my leadership skills. I just want to be known as that person that, if you see me walking at the grocery store, you're more than welcome to come up to me and say, hey, how do I do this? How to do that? And
Hey, Freddie, I'm a big fan.
so always be approachable. Always, I'm nobody special. And yeah, just continuing to grow as an individual.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you for sharing. And for anybody tuning in, where can they find you?
Yeah, great question. So you can find us on Zillow. You can find me on my social media page like Instagram, Sell with Freddie. Phone number 805-397-8035. You can find me at the gym and all of the many different locations that we attend. So yeah.
Cool. And then one last thing before you head out, for anybody tuning in, is there any last message you want to voice out?
Interesting question. I would say the last message that I would like to tone out is, everybody's journey is different. Doesn't matter where you started from. Doesn't matter what happened in the past, the mistakes that you made. There's always a new opportunity every single day that we wake up. So it's never late to start. It's never too late to start, and it's never too early to start. We're all blessed in many different ways, and I would say, whatever your passion, your goals are, go after it. Why not?
Burn the ships, guys.
Exactly.
If you can. Practically. All right, guys. Thank you for being on, Freddie.
Awesome,
I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Charles. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise. And for everybody tuning in, we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.